Good morning. I'm very excited that I get a chance to visit with Michael today. Michael Rothenberger, would you explain to us who home care assistance is? You know, you're our guy for home care assistance.
Yes, absolutely. So home care assistance, actually started 2002 in Palo Alto, California. So we are a franchise. Now, however, I'm the only Indiana location. So when I opened in 2012, I basically still had to build the brand from scratch because no one had ever heard of us before. So I am home care assistance as far as Indiana is concerned. And we're a personal services agency, like there are many out there. But what's I guess exclusive to us is what we call our balanced care method. And this is based off of a scientific study that we did, the people of Okinawa. Okay. Now Okinawa is one of those places in the world where, when I say there's pockets, I don't know what the actual, technical term is exactly, but there are pockets around the globe, right? Where cultures just seem to have a higher life expectancy. Okay. And Okinawa is one of those, where, there's very little heart disease, very little dementia, very little cancer. Like I said, life expectancy is higher than the rest of the world. So we did a study of, why can we replicate it, right? So we found that about a third of your life expectancy is genetic. Okay, so that's uncontrollable. Your DNA is what it is. But the good news to that is 66% or 2/3 of your life expectancy can be controlled. Okay, some things were not shocking, right? Healthy food is good for you. Exercise is good for you. Shocked nobody, right? But what we found is, if not more important than diet and exercise, we found is mental stimulation, sense of purpose. Okay, so our whole training process, our whole care plan, so to speak, is all designed around mind, body, spirit, total, comprehensive care. I talk about in our trainings that I truly believe that the body will follow the mind, positive or negative, right? So if we have a client, which I share, personal stories in our trainings, and just say, I've had clients look at me in the face if their son or daughter wasn't in the room and said, if I died in my sleep tonight, I'd be happy. Okay. They have a sense of they're a burden on their family, their spouse has passed, there's nothing left for me here. Okay. And if they maintain that mentality, they will spiral physically, I have no doubt. So our first job, as I train our caregivers, our first job when we start with a new client or we start in a new home, is to get that client to, what I say is, either regain or retain their sense of purpose. Okay. You've got to give them something to look forward to, which can be, very small. It can be going to the hairdresser, something minuscule as that. But what I tell them is, as soon as I now have something to look forward to, if I look forward to tomorrow, I now care about today. I have a reason. And that is our number one stepping stone when we start to care plans. Of course, skill sets and of course, physical care is all part of our offerings, but that's kind of how we go about it. It's a different approach, I think, than a lot of companies. And it can be trying, but it can also be very rewarding when you get those phone calls or you get those letters of, wow, you've been such an impact in mom or dad's life, or even in my life. We've getting calls from clients themselves of realizing what a change we've been for them.
So really a whole body, mind, soul, and body type approach.
Absolutely.
So tell me, how does someone's concerned for themselves, they're concerned for mom or dad, and they're going to call you, how scared are they when they call because they don't know what they're getting into? Can you kind of walk them through the process of what you would do to help them get to the next step?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think everyone's probably got a little bit of a different jumping off point. I think home care in general is becoming more widely known. It's still a relatively new concept when it comes to senior care. but really a lot of people, unless they've had to experience home health or home care themselves or with a family member, they have no idea what they're getting into. So a lot of our initial phone calls is purely education. What is home care? What is home health? What does my insurance cover? What does it not? It can be quite shocking to someone who, you know, maybe has had a fall, first time ever, went to the hospital and they went to rehab, and then the rehab tells them, okay, we're discharging you on Friday. And they say, great. And they tell them, well, with your home health, we'll have a nurse will come out 3 times a week to check on you. And they say, well, wait a second, I can't get out of bed on my own. It's a big kind of shocking moment for them. So it's a lot of education of what we do. That's actually still the number one call we get is, what do you do? And honestly, when I get that call, I tell them, it's actually easier to tell you what I don't do. I or any of my employees cannot perform a medical treatment as determined by the Indiana Department of Health. Okay. Outside of that, we can do about anything within reason that you need. So the common things are going to be, your activities of daily living, that's your basic levels of care, your bathing, dressing, meal prep, housekeeping, companionship. Those are kind of the normals, I guess you could say, what people would need. But it can expand to specifically to that client of what their desires are. One of our first questions is, what are our goals by having home care? So we kind of walk them through the process and assist them as needed. Whether a lot of times we'll say, what you actually need is not home care. You actually need home health, and let me help you with that. And I can contact or give you some contacts of people that I trust. Or maybe you need hospice. Hospice is not the it has kind of a aura about it that if I call hospice that I'm admitting that mom or dad's dying in the next week. No, that's not necessarily the case. And we partner with hospice quite often and home health. So just because I'm offering additional care does not mean that I am not also willing to care for you. It's just you may need more than what you think.
Well, it's like I say, it's a new experience. I've been in that experience where all of a sudden we're getting the notice that they're being released at 3 o'clock, and you're
Yep.
going, what am I going to do? So you also, from my understanding, and I think this is something people don't realize, is you're also, by caring for people, you're also caring for the caregivers in that family.
Oh, for sure.
Giving them an opportunity to be a son and daughter or a spouse.
Absolutely. And actually, we're actually in the middle of that process right now with a new client we're bringing on board. I've had the most conversation with the daughter, and she recently had her mom move in with her because she was, uncomfortable with her being alone. And now, as hopefully we continue seeing a relief of COVID, she's starting to go back to work and nervous about leaving mom alone. And we actually had a conversation last night. She was saying, mom's going to push back on this if I tell her that she can't be alone. What do I do? And I said, and in this situation, often it's beneficial to explain to them that it's, Mom, I don't necessarily think you need someone with you because you can't be independent. I need someone to be with you for me, because I'm worried about you being alone, and it's going to give me peace of mind knowing that someone is there just in case you need them. And that oftentimes will help a lot for someone who is not willing to admit that they need help yet. And maybe they don't, but it's a good kind of easing into, now I'm familiar with the situation. It's not as intrusive as I thought. I actually am able to be more independent with help than I was by myself. And it works, extremely well.
From what I understand as well, you guys in your industry in particular, you guys can augment the person that's wanting to stay and age at home. You can take care of the caregivers, helping them have some respite time so they can, live their lives without the stress that goes with that. And also, you can even go into like an assisted living so that people can
Yep.
stay at that level of care longer or what have you. Is that correct? Or
Yeah, absolutely. So, primarily most of our clients are at home, but we do also care for people in independent living, assisted living, even skilled. Um, we're very fortunate. We live in an area in the country that have multiple options for assisted living, independent living, and skilled that are a higher quality. That is a kind of a big thing around at least America, that I think that there can be difficulties finding high quality care in a facility setting. But even in the best facilities or assisted livings, you're not going to get one-on-one care. And that, I think, is the biggest eye-opening thing to a lot of people who do move into an assisted living. They have the impression that, if I need anything, I just have to press a button, and poof, a genie appears with help. And oftentimes, even in the best facilities, they're at like a 5-to-1 ratio of a CNA per resident. And there's a possibility you're fifth on the list if everybody's ringing their button. So and not taking anything away from assisted living, they do a great job, but there's no way to get one-on-one care without one-on-one care. So for our clients that do have that high level of need, that cannot afford to be on a waiting list, we do care for them while in a skilled or assisted settings.
So what brought you to this industry? What brought you to, how did you stumble into this?
So I'll try to shorten the story as best possible, but so I have a degree in sports medicine. I went to Purdue. I was athletic trainer for men's basketball team my senior year. Got to travel with them. Got to travel with the football team. It was a blast. I got out of that and had really only done various sales and manager positions. So I was about, I guess I was in my early 30s, and I just kind of had I don't know if it was an epiphany or what it was, but I just said, you know what, I don't know what my purpose in life is, but I know I'm not doing it. Okay. And so I called up our pastor. My wife actually lived in South Carolina at the time. We had moved out there for a job promotion. And I basically said that, I said, I don't know what my purpose in life is, but I know I'm not doing it. And, I need help. And so we had a series, we'd meet like monthly just for lunch and just kind of talk about life. And I said, I feel like I want to do something for a living that benefits other people, but I don't know what that is. I said, I think that's what would be fulfilling to me. And kind of about, I guess, parallel to that time, it wasn't even a friend. It was more of a one-off acquaintance of my wife's from her work. I had just heard that they are starting a franchise, and that kind of just got my interesting. What about owning our own business? That's something I'd never considered before. My wife and I had only ever worked for major corporations. So we had a short conversation initially. Said, would you ever want to own your own business? And she said, yeah. I said, cool. What would you want to do? She said, I have no idea. I said, me neither. Okay. But that kind of got our thought process down the franchise, rabbit hole, so to speak. And I started, because I said, I don't have a great idea. You don't have a great idea. Let's look at, other people's great ideas that's been successful as far as franchise opportunities. And so I started researching franchise opportunities, specifically to Indianapolis, because both my wife and I's family are all in Indiana. So we kind of made the decision that if we're going to start our own business, we're not going to be mobile anymore, and it's got to be, probably around family. So I'm not sure what I did, but I started getting phone calls from every business, all over the place of various industries, trying to pitch me, to buy into their franchise in the Indianapolis market. And, some were interesting, and we'd have follow-up calls with, some were, one conversations and no thank yous. And I remember home care assistant scheduling a call. And honestly, I anticipated it to be a one phone call. I don't really think senior care is what I'm built for, and I was blown away in that first conversation of what I didn't know. And, I was like, wow, I personally saw my grandmother's decline after my grandfather passed away. She lived alone. She isolated herself. She had a fear of falling because she had a sore knee, right? We'd take her to the doctor, and the doctor would say, Judy, you're 89 and you have a sore knee. That's good. But that knee, like I said, gave her that fear of falling. So she's tended to isolate herself. She used to love cooking for the whole family, but she lived alone now. So she stopped doing that. So her nutrition just totally fell off. I couldn't get her to go out and socialize because we all worked, right? So we couldn't just go hang out with grandma on Wednesday because I got a job. It was funny. I remember saying, Grandma, why don't you go to the senior center? And she said, there's nothing but old people there. Well, you're 89. So eventually she had a series of mini strokes that had to have her admitted to skilled nursing because she had paralyzed some muscles in her throat and had to be monitored for aspiration. And she hated it. She hated it. And I'd go see her and she'd say, I hate it here. I want to go home. So to all of a sudden have something I had never heard of before as a solution to what I had witnessed my grandmother going through, it was all just like a tidal wave. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I never knew this existed. Oh my gosh, I've seen the other end of this. Oh my gosh, this is what I've been talking about. If this is something I can do for a living that can have a benefit of other people. I wasn't prepared for this. But it extremely got my interest. So then I scheduled I don't know if it was like a meet and greet or whatever, but I flew out to Palo Alto, met the founders of the company who have since passed away, but at the time they were still running the company. And I was just amazed. I was amazed by their vision. It was like, here's what we're doing. Here's why we're better than everyone else. And here's how we're going to improve. They're never complacent. They're always looking to be, how are we going to be better for our clients? And I loved it. I flew back to South Carolina and I said, to my wife, I was like, I think this is it. I think this is a huge opportunity for us, but I was still terrified. I boil it down to me saying to my wife, I have a great idea. I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to cash in my 401k. I want to buy a new franchise and move back to Indiana with our 2 small children. And she said, if you think that's the right idea, I trust you. And then I was like, oh boy. But we did it. And, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy for a couple of years, but we did it, and we've been successful, and
Well, that's awesome. That's a great story.
Yeah,
it really is. So, and thank you for sharing that, because I think that's that's what Life's Co-Pilot's about, is to try to let people know what's out there, because like you said, you go, oh my God, this is here. Who knew, right?
Yeah.
That's why we're doing these meetings. That's why we're doing these videos. We're trying to expose people to what's out there. So I have one other question for you, and that's just basically, who are you outside of the place? And I will say, I was doing a little, research for the thing today, and I saw you swinging on a wrecking ball. So I'm not real sure, so.
Well, that's not normal. Yeah, that's actually my wife and I in Las Vegas last time. We went to Madame Tussauds wax museum. Yeah, we had a little fun in there. But no, outside of work, number one, I'm dad. I got 2 kids that I have been coaching in youth sports since they were 3, but now they've graduated dad, and they're both in travel. So I still, though, I love competing. I competed in the Spartan races. This year, unfortunately, they were all canceled. I didn't do any, but I still train almost every morning. So I say, just in case I have to run a race, I'm ready for it. But no, I love the Spartan races and golf is probably my other, passion. As much as I can get out there, I love to. And I actually been taking my daughter golfing. It started last summer. She turned 13. She's about to turn 14, which I can't believe. But she said, I'm too old for summer camp. And I said, okay, I agree with that, but you're not just going to sit home all summer. So she actually came interned at my office, and we went out tried to about once a week at least, and go play some golf. And it was a blast, good bonding with her too. So
that's awesome. So how do people get a hold of you?
Very easy. Our office, 317-581-1901. You will always get somebody, or our website, homecareassistancecarmel.com.
Well, thank you so much for sharing with us today, and we'll talk soon.